And welcome back, everybody. During the Idaho college student murders investigation, Moscow police contacted the makers of the knife believed to be the murder weapon. The probable cause affidavit says that officers found the sheath to a K-bar knife next to Madison Mogen's body. DNA on that sheath helped police connect Bryan Kohberger to the scene. Now, the director of sales and marketing for K-bar told TMZ that investigators contacted the company about the knives and sheaths they sell, but K-bar did not have any records of someone named Bryan Kohberger purchasing one. Experts say the knife that would fit the sheath is a 7-inch utility knife, commonly used as a tool by campers or hunters. While police haven't found the knife itself, the sheath with Kohberger's DNA is on it. It's a pretty big get for the prosecution. Wouldn't you agree, Terry?
I think it's a huge get for the prosecution. Anytime you can get either the weapon that committed the crime or something associated with that weapon, you're doing well. And here they have that sheath, and according to the affidavit, it was found next to one of the bodies, and it did have DNA on it, and definitely that's going to help convict Kohberger. I think it's probably one of the best pieces of evidence they have at this time. If they, of course, can find that knife, that's going to really solidify, this case. But for right now, having the sheath, he dropped it. It was a huge mistake on his part, knowing that he is someone who has a master's degree, working on his PhD in criminology. That was a huge mistake if, in fact, he is the one who dropped that sheath next to the body.
Yeah, I agree with you, Terry. The DNA evidence looks strong. In my experience, the DNA evidence tends to always look strong in arrest affidavits, though. Prosecutors love using it, and judges love signing off on warrants when they see it. What I would say is, let's wait and see. With Kohberger arrested and probable cause made out for the arrest, they also have probable cause to take a swab of the inside of his cheek for DNA. No, if that swab comes back as a match for the suspect on the sheath, it limits your arguments but doesn't eliminate them. Then we start talking about potentially contaminated crime scenes and how much of Kohberger's DNA was on the sheath. Very little, then maybe the police mishandled the evidence. A lot of DNA, maybe touching things and passing it around. That argument might work. But if the DNA tests negative or inconclusive for Kohberger, that's where this case gets really crazy, because the defense may have a real case on their hands. So for the DNA, I say wait and see.
Yeah, you know what, Brian? That sheath isn't the only piece of evidence that the police have. They also have footprints, and it's based in blood. And if, in fact, those footprints are found to be footprints from shoes that Kohberger wore, I think that sort of seals the case. Now look, they know for a fact it has a certain pattern. They can look for shoes with that pattern. They've already stated that it's a diamond pattern close to a Van shoe. And if it turns out he has those shoes in his closet, or he's ever purchased shoes that have that pattern, I think it's going to be just like a fingerprint. And it will definitely seal the case for the prosecution as far as that's concerned. And we've seen it in other cases. I mentioned this before. It convicted George Wagner, the fact that he had shoes that were very similar to those shoes that were found at the footprint in those crime scenes. So if they can do something like that here, they will really, I think, seal the deal.
Yeah, Terry, but that's a big and many, many ifs. If they can connect it to Kohberger, then that's great. But if not, then this whole shoe print, it's a nothing burger. Part of the problem is that this house has a lot of partygoers and people coming in and out. The other issue is that the authorities are relying on the testimony of Dylan, who described how this masked figure was moving through the house. If the defense can discredit something as small as the direction of this person was moving in the house, her memory of the events because she was rightfully terrified, she was tired, maybe not sober, or there is no link to Kohberger and this shoe, then this argument the defense can use to plant a seed of doubt in the case and the investigation and argue if they're wrong here, what else are they wrong about? The defense could use this issue to make a mountain out of a molehill, so to speak, and enough of them could cause problems for the prosecution's case.
I think we kind of see a preview of what the trial might look like when it ultimately happens, sometime later. Thanks to both of you for breaking that down. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, children left behind when a parent dies in an accident caused by a drunk driver are getting a new kind of support. And welcome back, everybody. We close out today's show in Memphis, Tennessee, where officials passed a new law to combat drunk driving, and it goes far beyond prison time. The story starts 2 years ago in St. Louis, Missouri. An alleged drunk driver killed Cordell Williams, his fiancée Lacey Newton, and their 4-month-old son, Cordell Williams II. The suspect, 25-year-old David Thurby, is charged with 3 counts of DUI resulting in death of another person. Court documents reveal that his blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit at the time of the crash. Williams and Newton left behind 2 young children. The name of one of those children is now on Bentley's Law. This law was proposed by his grandmother to force drunk drivers that kill a parent to provide financial support to the surviving children until they turn 18 and graduate from high school. While Bentley's Law has been under consideration in several states, Tennessee is the first and only state to officially pass it. Terry, I'll start with you. This new Tennessee law makes sense, but it sounds like it might be a nightmare to actually administer it.
Absolutely. I think it does make sense. People who are responsible for their actions do have to pay restitution, not just jail time. So I think doing this is something that all states should be doing. I just think the way they're talking about administering it is going to be a logistical nightmare. First of all, I think the courts should probably have a one lump sum at some point. Perhaps the defendant should add in some sort of escrow account monies that would go towards the family. But making sure that the individual pays is going to be hard to follow up. Many of these people don't have the funds. If they're in jail, as the law is stating, they have a year after the fact that they get out of jail. But how are you going to actually administer that? And can you in any way, shape, or form, if you are in fact the defendant, control what that education is for those children? So I don't think they're going to be able to logistically administer it in a fair way. I think it's going to take time to go through the court systems, and I think both parties are going to be objecting to the way it is being administered.
Yeah, in theory, Brian, it makes sense. It sounds like the right thing to do, but are the children ever going to see the money?
I don't think so. I mean, Terry kind of touched on it a bit. It seems to me like, for lack of a better term, it's like trying to get blood from a stone. Now, think about it. Someone commits a crime. Let's say it's a first-time offender, right? They're in jail for a number of years because you killed a child's parents, right? Or parents, or no, parents, because both of them have to be deceased. They spend that much time in jail. They have a felony record. Who's going to employ them? This is assuming that they're a citizen of the United States and they don't get deported to another country, because if they get deported, whole other issue. But if they're in the country, they had another year, how much money are you going to get out of these people? I talk about this as doing divorces when I was in law school, doing some civil work. I'm a public defender. I don't see how they get it done.
Yeah, and it also creates a continuing relationship with the children and the person who killed their parents, which is a bit odd in and of itself. Brian, Terry, thanks so much. Everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice.